Mark Skaar on the Skaar Kaard on 103.7 The Fox. Proud to welcome in Mr. Aldo Nova. Welcome.
Hey, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. I'm always doing great.
Awesome. Well, our mutual friend Jimmy K from the Metal Voice in Canada hooked us up, and that's how we're together. And we want to talk about your current project called The Life and Times of Eddie Gage. I thought we'd start there. And Aldo was kind enough to send me about a half hour of the record, which is a very ambitious project, which we'll wade into. But I really like what I'm hearing, so congratulations on this. I know it's been a long time coming.
Thank you very much, Mark. You know, it was a long time. It was a long, I started, it took 12 years. But I'm really glad I stuck to my guns, didn't sell out, and didn't give in. I mean, in 2008, I completely gave up working with other artists and doing anything whatsoever, whether writing, producing, or anything. And in 2008, I decided to start doing a rock opera. And I already had the basic storyline, and I already had the title. I don't know where I got the title, The Life and Times of Eddie Gage. But so it's kind of autobiographical, I guess, in a sense. So I didn't. I chose starving, which I did, as a matter of fact, rather than to go back and work for record companies and sign. Since at this point I was free from all my publishing deals, free from all the record company deals. And so I went back and I worked, and I just kept working on this. And, I got offered even a lot of classic rock shows due to the classic rock circuit where you just go back and forth and play your old hits. And, I got offered a lot of money, but I refused, because I don't consider myself to be a classic rock artist. I feel that I have something new to offer, and that's it. I just kept turning them down, and so I did my album, stuck to it, and I wrote 8 of the songs in 2008, wrote more songs in 2011, more songs in 2013, more in 2015, and in 2019 I wrote pretty much the bulk of, not the bulk of the album, but a good portion of the album. And then the album was finished on September 19th of 2019, and it was already mastered, and the record is mastered by Bob Leslie, probably a legend in mastering, and everything was done, but I just feel that I felt that it was missing a character. So on May 12th of 2020, I finally wrote the last song when all is said and done, and that was the character that cemented everything. So May 12th, 2020, I finished the actual album, had Bob reassemble it, and put the record and the way it's finally finished. So now it's a 23-song, 2-hour-long opus, and it's quite something. So what you heard was like a 5-song preview, which gives you the idea that it is a rock opera, and it's also very punchy. The songs are really different styles, and it's really good. The record's like, they won't be disappointed, the people. I mean, for all the fans that bought 2.0 and said, there's only 7 songs, well, they're not going to complain this time.
We're talking with Aldo Nova, so I guess you kind of explained it, because what I was going to ask you is, who is Eddie Gage?
Eddie Gage is sort of my alter ego. Eddie Gage is, like I said in my story, is a young kid from Austin, Texas, who's, he basically starts writing and has developed a following in Austin, gets signed by a record company executive who basically, like most record company executives, basically see you as a piece of meat and a dollar sign. So, and Eddie, like a young star, anybody with stars in his eyes, when he gets dangled the carrot of we're going to make you a star, whether you're young and you're not unadvised, signs the contract, which is basically a lifetime contract, and they make him a star, and then it goes through the cycles. But for me, with 20/20 hindsight, the record has two meanings: there's light and dark, and it's also like regular day, everyday life, but everything is hidden. So in the first song, Hey Laddie Daddy, it's sung by the character of Andy Christos. But if you look at Andy, that means anti, and Christos is Christ in Greek. So if you look through read between the lines, it means Antichrist. And so the lyrics all talk of like world domination, new world order, and mind control and things like that. So having 2020 hindsight, now that I'm 64, or I'll be 64 in about 5 years, I realized that how much I got taken advantage of and how much I gave up for that. But when you being on the cover of Circus magazine, you just take your chance. But later on in life, you realize that basically, my vision of a record company executive is a demon. So that's the way I did. I put that's why every character in has sort of a mysterious name that if you read between the lines, it's sort of like a light and dark. So Eddie Gage is basically me. I mean, which I find that it's a good thing, because I don't think that Pete Townsend, when he did Tommy, was ever a deaf, dumb, and blind kid that played a mean pinball. So it's like the reason why Eddie Gage is engaging is because it's like based on stories based on my life. So that's it. It was that's how I came up with doing the album.
So let me ask you this. The record's supposed to be coming out in May. Aldo, when people buy this as a CD compendium, will there be kind of a storyboard to kind of talk about the characters and weaving it in out of lyrics?
I've already written all it describes all the characters before they actually the titles of the song. Then it describes the situation. I already have Act 1 and Act 2. I split the acts between Song 1 to 11 as an Act 1, and then there would be some sort of intermission, because we're already in the process of getting this to the stage. There's a high-level producer that's going out and getting financing to get it on a big stage, to make it with a cast, and to really put this thing out, which was my initial goal. So I already have the story to Act 1 and Act 2, so it'll come as basically what they call a libretto with the album, so you can understand what's going on, and the lyrics will come with it. And I think the lyrics are the most important part of the song, because you can really identify the lyrics to the characters. So if you just hear the record and you listen to the lyrics, well, you sort of get an idea. But with the libretto or the book that comes with it, then you'll really understand the story. So that's already done. I've already done all my work. I'm way ahead of the game.
Fantastic. We're with Aldo Nova, and I know you just announced your band who's going to be playing with you live.
Mm-hmm. I've got quite the lineup, as a matter of fact. I've got Tim Gaines, ex-Striper, on bass. I have Jack Frost, ex-Seven Witches, ex-Sabotage, on guitar. And on drums, I have one of the famous Carmassi brothers. I have Billy Carmassi, who's played with me for 40 years. You see him in the first Fantasy video, and you'll see him in my last When All Is Said and Done video. He's literally been my drummer for 40 years. I mean, so this new band is really a unit that, they're like all in each their own right. They're quite what I would say the animals. And so when you see the front line of me on guitar, Jack Frost on guitar and the vocals, and Tim Gaines on bass and vocals, and Billy on drums, and I'll have a keyboard player, obviously, who's yet to be decided, because my stuff is pretty much keyboard-oriented also. Just the front lineup, my mentality as to when we play or when we play on stage is to destroy. It's to destroy the audience. In other words, to give them a show, which is why I always pick people that have like a really strong stage presence, because I let my bands, do what they want. You know what I mean? Be themselves. And I'm not scared to share the stage. I'm not like one guy. Because for me, the mentality of being on stage is like people come to see a show. So if you have like 5 guys that are out there that are showmen, well, then they get quite the show. If you're staying with just that one guy with a backup band, then where's the show? So, I mean, so my guys are all wild, and they play like mothers. I mean, so that's my lineup. Of course, we'll play live when when COVID dies down, but I'll never play one of these drive-ins. I think that these drive-ins are insane. I think people that think that a drive-in concert has anything to do to help the fans, I think is like out of his mind. I mean, to sit there, watch somebody on a stage from a car listening to the FM radio, I think is like they're nuts to think that that's ever going to work. Especially me coming from Canada, and my winters are like minus 40 degrees. Mm-hmm. I mean, who's going to go to a driving concert in a snowstorm? It doesn't make sense. So that's about it.
Yeah, we have them here too, so that's a no-go. So 23 songs on the record, Aldo. I had read somewhere that you had written well over 100 songs for this project.
Yeah, I did. A lot of songs got scrapped. Not scrapped, they're still there. They're great songs. It's just that for me, it's like, since I was writing a character-oriented play, as I wrote a new song that fit more the character than another song. See, initially it was a concept that I had, but it wasn't quite fixed in my mind. It was only till about 2-3 years ago that the album really came together with the characters. And that's why at the last minute, in May 12th, 2020, when I wrote this final song that cemented that extra character that was missing, that's when I said, finally, the album's done, and I got it done again by Bob Ludwig, and that was it. That was the album. But I'll be putting out a 6-song EP February or March this year to give people a taste, because of COVID and everything like that put a damper on everything. And I'm not just going to throw out 12 years of work putting out a 23-song, 2-hour EP out there to the public and seeing it just fall through the cracks. So I have to be very careful as to when I put it out. But the 6-song EP will be available February or March.
Okay, looking forward to that. Talking with Aldo Nova. Do you mind if we go back?
No, go ahead. Go anywhere. Ask me anything.
Okay. We'll go back to 1982. I was 15, so I was in high school. And you seem like an overnight sensation. I know careers don't work that way, but talk to me about your evolution kind of coming into signing with Portrait Records and having fantasy blow up immediately for you.
Well, I grew up playing in club bands. I was playing club bands from 16 years old, 4 sets a night, 4 one-hour sets, 4 nights a week. And that's where I got my chops. I learned how to sing, I learned how to play keyboards, I learned how to do harmony, because we were doing like disco sets or whatever the current hit was. We were a cover band. For one set, we'd do like old Sha-La-La rock and roll and these suit costumes. And for one set, we dressed up as the Beatles and we did Beatles songs. So when time came that I got time to go in the studio, I actually had already the knowledge of doing that. Plus, I had already read a bunch of recording magazines and knew sort of like the technology. So when I started doing the pre-record, I was hired by somebody to be a ghost to do the vocals and to write the songs. And he'd go to the TV shows and whatever. But that was very new wave. That was sort of like based on the music back then, the Gary Newman and stuff like that. So the record was very new wave, very synthesizer based. But then when the guy skipped out and the record company and the studio said, well, you keep working on demos, we'll give you the time. And so then I started veering more to my roots, my rock roots. And so then I wrote like Fantasy and Under the Gun and all these songs that appear on the record. But when I went to a record label, they said, well, you only have one half of the record was new age, new wave. The other half of the record was rock. So they said, you only have half a record. So then I went back in and did all the side 2 of the record, or did the heart to hearts and all that stuff, and developed a cohesive record. From that, my demos, they got to the hands of a publisher called ATB Music, and they came and signed me as a writer. And as a writer, They signed me as an artist also. And then they sold my contract to Portrait in the States. And then I became an artist on Portrait. And then, my demos became my album, and they were mixed by Tony Bon Jovi. So the record company hailed it as their next big thing. So I don't know. I guess it was a combination of MTV just coming out and the album having a bombastic sound that Tony Bon Jovi gave it, and the songs were like a mix between a cross between rock music and synthesizers, and the heavily layered vocals, and I don't know. It was something new, So, and the leopard suit counted for a lot.
So how did it feel being kind of thrust out there, seemingly all of a sudden, here's this guy, he's here, and how did it feel for you being just, bam, it's just there?
How did it feel? At first, I didn't feel it, and I didn't feel it for quite a while because my manager had already had me on the road way before the record came out. He had me playing clubs, and then I played my first tour ever with opening up for Hall & Oates, which is a strange combination, but it did work. And also I was sharing the stage with probably one of the greatest American living songwriters around, Daryl Hall.
Right.
So that was, for me, was a thrill. And then we kept working and went to Blue Oyster Cult, so I never had a chance to really absorb success, except when people would come to see me, and just like if I was opening for Sammy Hagar, most of the audience was coming to see me, so it was like, Sammy, of course, had his fans, but it was sort of a phenomenon. And when I would do in-stores, because back then we would do, you go and sign records in-store. Those were kind of like the meet and greets, but we didn't get paid for them, and we'd sign up to 500 autographs a week. A day. There was crowds and crowds, and we just went and did it, and that's when we realized that something was happening. But the records started playing on the radio, and I don't know. I just took it all in. Go ahead.
Do you remember the first time you heard Fantasy on the radio, where you were, what you were doing?
No, I don't remember. Like I said, I was probably on the road and somewhere in Europe, and I didn't get the chance to really absorb it. Like I said, except at the shows, I saw that people were really enthusiastic. So, and then of course I found out that my record 2 months later. My album came out April 2nd, 1982, and by June the 2nd, 1982, my album was already in number 8 on the Billboard chart. So it was quite something when the record company took you out to these big dinners, and I would play at a show with Sammy Hagar in New York, and my record had just gone gold. So it was great. I don't know. It was something. That was like my dream come true, to be on the cover of Circus magazine. Next thing you know, I'm on the cover of Kerrang magazine, and having articles written about me. So it was a dream come true for a kid that started playing guitar at 13 years old. It was something else. That was more important to me than the fame, the fact that my dream came true. So.
Well, congratulations. It's been almost 40 years, but it's something that will always stay with you, and something that you did, and you can be proud of it.
Of course. Your past is always, I'll never negate the past. Fantasy still sounds great to me. It still sounds great in 2020, as good as it did in 1982. Because of the combination of me, the writing, and Tony Bon Jovi doing the sound, the mixing, and gave it that bombastic sound, which still sounds current today. The record doesn't sound dated. Doesn't have an era to it. Doesn't sound like it's a 1982 record that sounds dated. It's just a great sounding record. It's got great songs. And last night I was just playing Under the Gun with just one guitar and voice, and I think that's what I'm going to do next on my next home video. My next COVID special is Under the Gun with just me and a guitar. It came out great. So it's just great songs. I mean, you can play them with an acoustic guitar and they sound good. So I was happy. It's like, I don't know, I'm happy. But, in 2020, I've made a progression. I've evolved. And I was fortunate enough that my voice didn't deteriorate in the least. As a matter of fact, my voice got better. So my songwriting got evolved. And my songwriting in 1982 was great. I'm not to say it's great. Whatever it was, people thought it was good. Mm-hmm. And in 2020, I think they won't be disappointed.
So then later on, Subject Aldo Nova and Twitch, and then you disappeared. Kinda.
And disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yeah. But you wound up being on the first Bon Jovi record. Were you ever asked to join the band?
No, I was never asked, and I wouldn't have joined. I'm not good with playing in other people's bands. I tried. I was even band. I even played in Cyndi Lauper's band in 1987. I just hated that. I just hated the whole experience. So I just dumped out in Australia without any money, without a ticket to get home, nothing. I just screw that. I just left. So I'm not good playing with other people. That sort of where I'm not with a head. So Bon Jovi never asked me. But it was through Tony Bon Jovi, his cousin, who had mixed my album, that I got to play on his record and all those like Roy Bittan from the E Street Band and Hughie McDonald and Tim Pierce from Rick Springfield Band, and I came there. It was through Tony Bon Jovi. If it wasn't through Tony, nobody would have went to play on John Bon Jovi's demo. I mean, so we were all there. There was no members of the Bon Jovi band in there yet. Frankie LaRocque on drums, Roy Bittan on piano, me on guitar, Tim Pierce that did the solo on guitar, Hughie McDonald on bass, and there was another synthesizer player who I can't remember, but who was also quite famous. So, we did Runaway, and a local radio station picked it up, and it became a hit from there. Then I guess they took it one step further.
And later on, Blaze of Glory.
Blaze of Glory. Well, you see, even on the first album, I did all the background vocals. It was me, a guy called Becca Saros from Balance, and John. We did all the background vocals, and I did some keyboards on the album, which, I mean, all John did was say thank you, Aldo Nova. No, Aldo Nova appears of Portrait Records. So when we were doing all the background vocals, a funny story is that when I do a lot of layered harmonies on my album, I have no problem. But to do harmonies on somebody else's album, I'm sort of like a little tone deaf. So I carried a little synthesizer with me. And so before every take, I'd give a note that would go, and then I would do the vocals. So if you isolate those vocals on the first Bon Jovi record, you'll hear, and then the background vocals. So that's about it. So the Blaze of Glory record came years after. I mean, that came in 1990, and I had done the demo to it originally. I went to John's house, and we did an acoustic version, just me on guitar and him on vocals. And then I went home and did a very elaborate demo, which went on to become the album version. We just used musicians, but it was exactly like my demo. So that was it. And then I worked also, previous to going to Los Angeles, for 3 weeks in John's basement, doing all the rest of the demos to all the songs, which later also became what the album was called, which appeared on the record, but played by Kenny Aronoff on drums, Andy Jackson on bass, Ben Montez from the Heartbreakers on organ and keyboards, Whitey Wachtel from the Expensive Buenos on guitar, me, and a cast of others, Jeff Beck, obviously, and that was Young Guns. It was a riot to do.
Powerhouse band.
Yeah, one hell of a band. To watch Jeff Beck play, it was like, oh, my dream come true. And the funny thing about Jeff Beck is that, you think that this guy would carry on special amps and have it sound, but he just asked for a twin reverb. says, give me a twin reverb, which is the most simple amp in the world. And he sounded like Jeff Beck. I mean, Jeff Beck is Jeff Beck. The sound is in his fingers. He doesn't need anything special, which was I thought was I was really impressed. So, but to actually sit and watch him play, so that was it. It was a great Young Guns 2 was a great experience, for me.
And of course, a lot of people might not know that you work with Celine Dion and have a Grammy to show for it.
Exactly. It's actually sitting right here in front of me. I did. I was working with Celine Dion when she was 14 years old. When record company exec, when I moved back to Montreal, waiting out for Sony to let me out of my contract, I moved there and built a little studio, and they came to me and said, would you like to produce this French artist? And I speak English, French, and Italian fluently, so it was a French record called Incognito, and I wrote 3 songs on it. Have a Heart, another song. Well, the songs are titled in French, so one was called Partout je te vois, the other one was called C'est quoi l'amour, and the other one was called, I forget the name. But I did those songs. The songs appeared on that record. I produced and wrote them. And then from there, she started doing another French album. And then when it came time for her to do, that she was going to play on the Junos, which were in English. The Junos is the equivalent of the Canadian Grammys. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. It's like a huge to-do. So when it came time for her to do the English Junos, she didn't speak a word of English, so they used my song. I went into the studio and actually phonetically taught her how to sing English, and then she performed the song at the Junos, and they signed her to a U.S. deal right there, to an English-speaking album. So, I was sort of, responsible in a way for her getting signed to English. And then when she took a break in 2000 or 1997, when she wanted to come back, I wrote the song A New Day Has Come for her. And that was like #1 in 26 countries for 6 months. So, I worked with Celine Dion quite a bit.
And hopefully that has more than allowed you to do what live how you want to live, I hope.
Sort of. I didn't understand that question. Can you just say it again?
I kind of pulled it out of thin air, to be honest with you. But a comfortable life where you don't have to answer to the man, I hope.
A comfortable life. I'm comfortable in my head. Yes, that's. At 64, I'm comfortable. I'm great with myself. I finally was able to liberate myself from the man. Like I say in my 5-song thing, I'm slave to no one now. I own all my own publishing. I own my own songs. I write all my own songs. I own my own publishing. I own all the masters. I am the artist, and they're all my record labels. So I have complete control of everything, and now nobody owns me. So, it wasn't a matter of being comfortable. It was just a matter of sticking to my guns. Like I said, making the rock opera, I starved quite a bit. It was tough for me to put food on the table, which makes me, I choose to be more like my fans, or the common man, than to be like somebody who's like a superstar or a millionaire, or, people like that. I'm more of a down-to-earth guy, and who knows what it's like, to difficulties to pay his mortgage or his rent, and how to put food on the table, how difficult that could be. And I've lived more the life of a regular guy than I've lived like the superstar. Superstar was, was never comfortable with that. My name is Aldo Caperuccio. I was born of Italian descent. My name means redhead, and my name became Nova. And even though I lived for most of my life with the name Nova, when I signed off in 2008, I hung the name Nova at the door and became Aldo Caperuccio. And that's, as a matter of fact, that's who you're talking to today, is Aldo Caperuccio. People just know me as Aldo. The Nova thing, just it's great. I mean, You know, otherwise, it's great for like the album cover. Otherwise, it would have to be a double album to put my real last name on it. But I don't know. I'm just a regular guy, and I feel comfortable in my skin. And like I said, and like you said, I don't have to answer to anybody. There's nobody pushing me in the ass and telling me that, you know, oh, you can't put 23 songs on an album. So I put 23 songs on an album, and screw anybody that doesn't like it. And for me, I think for my fans, 23 songs in 2 hours is very satisfying. Well,
I'm looking forward to hearing the whole thing.
Oh yeah, it's really quite the endeavor. Took, like I said, 12 years of working, but it shows that there was a lot of love. There's a lot of very impressive playing, and a lot of great songwriting, very varied styles. I morphed my voice and, you know, a lot of songs to fit the character. Like I said, it's top notch all the way. Even to the mastering, it's like one of the legends, Bob Ludwig, who is a fan, and we're also great friends, that did the mastering. So everything is top notch. The playing is so impressive. It's just a great quality album. You know what I mean? You're not going to be disappointed in any way, shape, or form. Whether it's the songs, whether it's the structure, whether it's the playing, whether it's the sound, it's like super high quality. Everything is like, you know, the best. So, you know, the best that you can get. I mean, this is it, or at least I think they won't be disappointed. So.
The Life and Times of Eddie Gage. Look for it in the spring of 2021. Aldo Nova, thank you so much for being on with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. Have a nice day. And to my fans, have a nice day. And watch out for winter, and wear your winter boots or you slip and fall and kill yourself.
For Aldo Nova, I'm Mark Skaar on the Skaar Card on 103.7 The Fox.